The Kamasutra of Vātsyāyana is an ancient Indian Sanskrit text that explores human relationships, pleasure, and love. It is one of the most significant works on sexuality, ethics, and social behavior in Indian literature, composed during the Gupta period, approximately 3rd to 5th century CE. This text serves as a guide to the philosophy of Kama, sensual pleasure and love, one of the 4 primary aims of life, Purusharthas, alongside Dharma, righteousness, Artha, material success, and Moksha, liberation. Unlike popular misconceptions, the Kamasutra is not merely a manual on eroticism, but a treatise on the art of living, courtship, marriage, and human relationships. It discusses the role of men and women in society, the etiquette of love, and the science of pleasure in a balanced and harmonious manner. The Jayamangala commentary by Yashodhara enhances the understanding of this classic work, providing deeper insights into the cultural and philosophical context. It is one of the most important works on sexuality, ethics, and social behavior in Indian literature. Adhikarana 1. Sadharanam, General Principles of Love and Living. Chapter 1. The Goals of Life and the Scope of the Kamasutra. In ancient times, the sages of India established that the purpose of life centers around 4 primary goals: Dharma, righteous living and duty; Artha, wealth and material prosperity; Kama, pleasure and emotional fulfillment; and Moksha, liberation from the cycle of rebirth. These 4 pursuits, when rightly balanced, provide a complete framework for human existence. Among them, the pursuit of pleasure, Kama, is neither sinful nor frivolous. Rather, it is recognized as a natural and essential part of life, especially when guided by wisdom and harmony with Dharma and Artha. The sage Vātsyāyana, author of this treatise, begins by acknowledging that various sciences and scriptures deal with these goals individually. The Vedas and Smritis expound on Dharma. The Arthashastra, which deals with politics and economics, instructs on Artha. And in the realm of sensuality and love, the Kamasutra serves as the authoritative text. It is not merely a manual of physical intimacy. It is a profound study of human behavior, relationships, love, desire, and emotional intelligence. Vātsyāyana explains that he did not compose this work from personal experience, but compiled it from earlier texts by sages like Bhabravya, Dattaka, and others who wrote extensively on the subject. His aim was to condense and refine those teachings into a coherent system. He sought to create a guide for those who wish to understand the art of love in all its dimensions: physical, emotional, psychological, and social. The Jayamangala commentary by Yashodhara enriches this foundation by asserting that the pursuit of pleasure, when kept within the bounds of Dharma and guided by intellect, elevates the soul. Pleasure in this context is not crude indulgence. It is aesthetic, refined, and often deeply emotional. The commentator also notes that while this text primarily focuses on heterosexual relationships, especially between men and women in classical roles, its teachings have broader implications for understanding intimacy and companionship. In the opening verses, Vātsyāyana declares the objective of the Kamasutra as being the understanding of love in all its aspects: union, attraction, conversation, marriage, and beyond. He emphasizes that it is not meant only for the youth or the sensual, but also for the wise, the married, and those who seek harmony in personal relationships. Just as one studies music, painting, or philosophy to elevate the mind and senses, so too should one study the science of Kama to bring joy, balance, and grace to love. The chapter proceeds to discuss the natural instincts within men and women that lead them toward pleasure. This drive, Vātsyāyana argues, is not to be suppressed or vilified, but should be refined and understood. When harnessed with dignity and mutual respect, it becomes a source of not only physical satisfaction, but also emotional fulfillment and even spiritual growth. The commentary here adds a reflection on the place of women in the text. Yashodhara is clear that women, while often portrayed within societal roles of the time, are not to be viewed as passive participants. They are emotional and intellectual partners in the dance of love. Their desires, agency, and power of attraction are acknowledged and even celebrated within the framework of the Kamasutra. The chapter ends with a reminder that this text, though dealing with pleasure, must be read with maturity and responsibility. It is not meant to encourage reckless indulgence, but to teach discernment, empathy, and the subtle art of intimacy. Vātsyāyana offers the Kamasutra as a mirror to human desire, complex, beautiful, and worthy of study, not just in secret or shame, but with the dignity it deserves. Chapter 2. On the knowledge of pleasure, Vātsyāyana begins this chapter by laying out the foundation for understanding Kama, or pleasure, not merely as physical gratification, but as an art, one that requires education, reflection, and cultivation. He classifies the study of pleasure as a form of knowledge that, like music or poetry, must be acquired through learning, experience, and guidance. Pleasure, according to him, is not just a spontaneous act of the senses, but a discipline of the body and the mind. The Jayamangala commentary offers insight into this idea, reminding readers that human beings, unlike animals, do not act purely on instinct. They are capable of transforming desire into something refined and beautiful. A man must learn how to express love, not just through intercourse, but through timing, tenderness, and emotional intelligence. Similarly, a woman's desires are shaped by subtleties. Gestures, moods, and conversation all play vital roles. Thus, the knowledge of pleasure is a shared language between lovers, not a one-sided pursuit. Vātsyāyana identifies 3 sources of knowledge regarding pleasure: instruction from others, personal observation, and practical experience. Each of these sources contributes to one's ability to understand and apply the teachings of love. A student may learn the rules, observe how people behave, and finally test that learning in real-life encounters, always guided by mutual respect and decorum. Importantly, the text outlines the necessity of knowing one's partner. All pleasures are not the same for all people. The tastes, responses, and temperaments of individuals differ. What pleases one may bore or offend another. Therefore, a true connoisseur of love must cultivate sensitivity and adaptability. He must study his partner, not as an object, but as a complex emotional being whose reactions and desires must be respected and cherished. The Jayamangala elaborates here with commentary on emotional resonance, stating that one must attune oneself to the rhythms of another's mind and body. Foreplay is not just physical preparation, it is the weaving of emotional trust. Words, expressions, and attentiveness to the partner's responses are essential. The commentator even draws analogies to music, where the right pauses and tempo elevate the melody. In the same way, love requires timing, variation, and an appreciation of silence and anticipation. Another important point Vātsyāyana makes is that pleasure cannot be pursued in isolation from social and ethical context. Just as one does not eat without regard for health or public decorum, one should not seek pleasure recklessly. The pursuit must be in line with the responsibilities and roles a person holds, whether as a householder, a partner, or a member of society. This teaching emphasizes restraint, balance, and ethical engagement, not abstinence, but refinement. There's also a focus on the role of women as participants in pleasure. Yashodhara, in his commentary, insists that the woman's pleasure is equally important. Her body, mind, and consent are all central to the success of intimacy. A man who fails to learn this is not worthy of the art of Kama. Vātsyāyana makes it clear that both the man and the woman are students and teachers to one another. It is a partnership of mutual delight, guided by shared awareness. Toward the end of the chapter, Vātsyāyana presents the idea that pleasure is not only a source of joy, but also a means of emotional healing. It strengthens the bond between lovers, renews the spirit, and brings relief from worldly burdens. In the union of bodies and minds, people find a kind of sacred escape, a deep reminder of their own humanity. The Jayamangala concludes its remarks on this chapter by emphasizing that the knowledge of pleasure is ultimately about connection, not conquest. True intimacy arises when both partners feel seen, valued, and awakened. Such a connection requires education, humility, and deep attention, making the art of love one of the most noble pursuits available to humankind. Chapter 3. On the Training and Qualifications of a Man. The art of love, Vātsyāyana asserts, is not merely for the impulsive or the unrefined. It is a pursuit best suited to a man who has cultivated discipline, knowledge, and grace. This chapter sets forth the ideal training and lifestyle of such a man, who seeks not only pleasure, but balance in all aspects of life. According to the text, a man must first be well-versed in the three primary goals of life: Dharma, ethical duty; Artha, worldly success; and Kama, sensual pleasure. These are not to be pursued in conflict with one another, but in harmony. Dharma ensures a righteous path, Artha provides the means to live comfortably, and Kama brings fulfillment and joy. Without knowledge of all three, a man's life will lack wholeness. From his youth, the ideal man is trained in disciplines that refine both his mind and senses. He learns logic, language, ethics, and especially the fine arts: music, poetry, painting, drama, and dance. These are not superficial accomplishments, but vital tools in expressing emotion and cultivating intimacy. The Jayamangala commentary highlights that such accomplishments allow a man to speak with charm, to observe with subtlety, and to please not just with words, but with presence. He is also advised to learn the science of perfumes, garland making, interior decoration, and the subtleties of dress and grooming. Far from being effeminate pursuits, these arts help a man become more attuned to sensory pleasures, his own and those of others. When he dresses tastefully, smells pleasant, and carries himself with elegance, he becomes naturally attractive. Yashodhara remarks that sensual pleasure begins long before the touch of skin, in the scent that lingers, the glance that captivates, the softness of words and cloth. In addition to aesthetic skills, a man should be capable in matters of conversation, storytelling, and mimicry, forms of entertainment that help build emotional rapport. He should know how to create a pleasurable environment, how to maintain gentle humor, and how to read his partner's moods. These are not theatrical tricks, but expressions of deep attention and care. Further, Vātsyāyana places emphasis on the man's physical fitness and personal hygiene. His body should be kept clean, flexible, and attractive, not for vanity, but for readiness. A lover's body is not merely a vessel for desire, but a gift offered to another, and must be tended as such. The Jayamangala notes that a body that is unkempt or careless reflects a lack of reverence, both toward oneself and one's partner. Equally important is the training of the mind. A man must learn restraint, patience, and emotional intelligence. He must not be quick to anger, easily jealous, or selfish in his pleasure. The refined lover knows how to delay gratification, to listen with sincerity, and to remain attuned to another's emotional state, even amid passion. Vātsyāyana also speaks of manners and conduct. A man must be generous but not wasteful, confident but not arrogant. He must maintain his dignity in both private and public settings. His pursuit of Kama should never tarnish his name, nor bring harm to others. Indeed, the best pleasures come when they are accompanied by honor and mutual respect. Toward the end of the chapter, a subtle but important point is made. The man must be prepared to serve the woman, not only to be served. This reverses the assumption of dominance that might otherwise color his education. True intimacy arises not from conquest, but from mutual surrender, where both parties give of themselves freely, knowing the other is worthy. The Jayamangala commentary closes this chapter with an appeal to equilibrium. No man is perfect in every art, but the aspiration itself shapes character. A man who pursues this path with humility and pleasure in the learning becomes, in time, not just a better lover, but a finer human being. And it is this combination of skill, attentiveness, and inner refinement that elevates love from the realm of instinct to the realm of art. Chapter 4, On the Life of a Courtesan. In this chapter, Vātsyāyana turns his gaze toward a figure both revered and misunderstood in classical Indian society. The courtesan. Far from being seen as a mere object of desire, the courtesan in the Kamasutra tradition is depicted as a woman of culture, intelligence, and emotional acumen. Her life is governed not just by sensuality, but by strategy, aesthetic refinement, and a code of conduct that demands both independence and restraint. The courtesan, known in Sanskrit as Vaishya, occupies a distinct social and sensual space. She is not a wife, yet she is often more intellectually stimulating than one. She is not a lover in the private sense, but her companionship can be emotionally profound. Vātsyāyana is careful to portray her life as neither vulgar nor immoral, but as a profession and an art, one that requires significant training and social awareness. From the outset, Vātsyāyana notes that a courtesan should be educated in the 64 arts: music, poetry, conversation, dress, perfumery, dance, and many other refinements of pleasure and presentation. Her beauty is not only physical, but intellectual. She must know when to speak, when to remain silent, how to flatter without submission, and how to withdraw without creating offense. Her success lies not in seduction alone, but in the subtle orchestration of desire and distance. According to the Jayamangala commentary, her role is comparable to that of a performer of emotional intimacy, one who reflects the desires and fantasies of her patron while remaining inwardly composed and unattached. This commentary reminds us that the courtesan is often more self-aware than her clients, and this gives her the power to guide, to manipulate, and sometimes to heal. The courtesan lives in a world that requires constant discernment. She must assess the character of each man who seeks her company. Is he generous? Is he respectful? Is he boastful, deceitful, or overly possessive? A wise courtesan does not give herself away cheaply. She understands the value of her presence, not just her body. Pleasure offered without appreciation is demeaning, but pleasure exchanged in the spirit of elegance and mutual agreement becomes dignified. Vātsyāyana lays out that a courtesan must not be bound by emotional vulnerability, yet she must know how to simulate affection convincingly. Her affection is not always false, but it is never careless. She gives a man what he seeks, often more than he expects, but never all of herself. To protect herself from exploitation or degradation, she must keep part of her heart untouchable. The Jayamangala notes that in the highest form, the courtesan's art approaches emotional alchemy, transforming the raw metal of desire into gold, through poise, elegance, and mastery of timing. She may pretend to need a man while reading his every thought. She may feign offense to deepen his attention. Her life, then, is a performance layered with wisdom, never to be mistaken for deception alone, but as an art of survival and intimacy combined. The courtesan is also advised to maintain alliances, not only with clients, but with servants, doorkeepers, and other women. Social networks protect her from danger and inform her of the moods and movements of powerful men. She must be observant and strategic, ensuring that she is never at the mercy of one patron and never overly attached to fleeting pleasures. Her freedom lies in her ability to choose, to decline, to vanish when needed. In practical terms, Vātsyāyana suggests that a courtesan know how to extract gifts and favors with charm, not demand. She should allow a man to offer, not make him feel forced. If a client begins to lose interest or fails to reward her adequately, she may distance herself, feign illness, or attract a rival's attention to rekindle his pursuit. In this way, she remains in control of her work. Yet this chapter is not cynical. It also allows for moments where a courtesan might feel true affection. If she does, Vātsyāyana cautions that she must be especially careful. Love can make her vulnerable. It can blur her judgment. Should she wish to pursue affection sincerely, she must do so knowingly, accepting the risks without compromising her dignity. The Jayamangala ends its commentary on this chapter with a striking observation. While the courtesan operates in a world of impermanence and illusion, she is often the most awake among all characters in the theater of love. Her awareness is her strength. Her power lies not in pretending to be something she's not, but in knowing exactly who she is and what she offers. Chapter 5. On Behavior, Etiquette, and the Daily Life of a Cultured Man. A man who aspires to master Kama must first master himself. Vātsyāyana outlines in this chapter how such a person, educated in both ethics and pleasures, should conduct his daily life. This is not a rigid prescription of hours, but a suggested rhythm, where worldly obligations, sensual fulfillment, and spiritual composure are all given their due. The day begins with a focus on personal hygiene and grooming. Upon waking, the refined man attends to his body, not out of vanity, but to show respect to both himself and those around him. Cleanliness, fresh garments, well-kept hair, and the use of light perfumes help him present a pleasing appearance. The Jayamangala explains that the body is a temple of both pleasure and virtue, and keeping it attractive is a sign of mindfulness. After morning routines, the man turns to duties of livelihood, whether that be study, administration, trade, or other skilled work. These activities are part of his pursuit of artha, material success, which must not be neglected in favor of indulgence. Kama, after all, flourishes best when built upon the foundations of responsibility. A man too idle or too obsessed with pleasure will soon become unbalanced and lose the respect of both society and his lovers. Later in the day, when his practical affairs are managed, he may turn toward pastimes and pleasures. This includes time spent with friends, enjoying music, dance, storytelling, or playing games. Here, Vātsyāyana emphasizes refined leisure, not mindless distraction, but pleasurable stimulation of the senses and intellect. These activities serve as both social glue and emotional nourishment. As twilight approaches, the man may adorn himself in more elegant attire and prepare to meet his lover or courtesan. The transition from the workday to the intimate evening should be graceful. The Jayamangala likens this transformation to a sacred ritual. Just as one changes clothing before entering a temple, one should also shift one's manner before entering a space of love. In his interactions with lovers or companions, the man must show courtesy, attentiveness, and restraint. His speech should be soft, his eyes engaged, and his movements thoughtful. He should not rush into physical contact but approach with sensitivity. A lover is not to be taken, but welcomed, wooed through patience, poetry, and presence. Physical pleasure, when it comes, is best when wrapped in emotional resonance. The ideal man also knows when to withdraw, giving his partner space, time, and freedom. He must not suffocate with over-attention, nor ignore with careless silence. This balance is delicate and rooted in empathy, a central virtue in the art of Kama. Moreover, he should be generous without being wasteful. Gifting, whether of words, jewels, or favors, must be done with taste and timing. A well-off man who clumsily flaunts his wealth gains no true affection, but one who gives with grace earns not only desire, but trust. Vātsyāyana further states that the cultured man must avoid excess, whether in wine, food, or intimacy. Pleasure turns bitter when it becomes addiction. Instead, he should cultivate moderation, so that every experience remains sweet and savored. The Jayamangala compares this to a garden. When overwatered, even the most beautiful flower wilts. In public, the man's behavior must reflect dignity and discretion. He should not boast of conquests, nor insult rivals, nor involve himself in vulgarity. His sensual life is his private realm, not a performance for society. His charm lies in mystery, not in spectacle. In private, he is encouraged to keep journals of his experiences, not as trophies, but as a way of reflecting and growing. Through this, he learns not only how to love better, but how to become more attuned to the world of feelings, symbols, and reactions. Ultimately, the message of this chapter is one of integration. A life of pleasure is not a life of chaos or indulgence. It is a life of discipline infused with joy. The refined man, who walks with elegance between duty and delight, becomes both admired and loved. In his presence, others feel seen, cherished, and inspired to refine themselves in return.